All right, how's it going, guys? So, doing this video today with the Senior Bowl rosters coming out basically from Jim. So basically, it's going to be a list of players for you guys to keep an eye on that could potentially be Packers, since we all know, we all know that the Packers generally like to draft guys who go to the Senior Bowl. So here's a list of some guys who I feel the Packers could be interested in, but bring them down by position, of course. And okay, so we'll start quarterback. So we know they probably more likely are not going to take a quarterback. Of course, you got Love and then Clifford. And Clifford was okay in the preseason, but still, there's a chance maybe they, take someone in the late in the day 3 or undrafted. So maybe one of these guys might go undrafted. So the only couple guys really I think that the Packers would take a look at would be Michael Pratt from Tulane. But he's probably a day 2 guy, or they day 2 guy, so probably not the Packers wouldn't take him. But I think he's a guy they would be interested in. He's not super talented physically, but he's really smart. He's got really good accuracy, good ball placement. He reads the field well, all that stuff. And overall, he's actually a decent athlete. It's just he's not like super strong. His arm's not super. He doesn't have a cannon or anything like that. But he has actually upside potential, starter potential. But like I said, he's probably like a late day 3 guy, maybe mid day 3 guy, something like that, or day 2 guy. Sorry. So I don't think the Packers probably would take him. But the only guy that I think they possibly would take, or if he in the late in the draft, or if he goes undrafted, would be Carter Bradley from South Alabama. He's the son of Gus Bradley, the coach. He's a 6-year guy, so he's got a lot of experience. Although he's only started about a year and a half, or no, sorry, 2 years. 2 years at South Alabama. And so he's got good size, 6'2", 220, and he's a decent athlete, but he doesn't have a big upside. So he's a potential, late day 3 undrafted free agent type guy who can maybe become a backup number 2 type guy. But that's about it. That's not the quarterbacks the Packers either wouldn't be interested in, or I wouldn't take them that early and what have you. So moving off the running backs, there's a decent amount of running backs who I feel the Packers would be interested. First one would be Dylan Laub from New Hampshire. He's got a lot of experience in the passing game, both as a receiver and a blocker, and he's got good size, about 5'10", 208, and he's just kind of a solid all-around type guy. He could be a third down type back, maybe even. So the Packers could be interested in him on day 3. Another one would be Marshawn Lloyd from USC. He was transferred from South Carolina. One of the good things about him is he doesn't have a lot of wear and tear on his body. There's still a lot of tread left. You could say tread left on his tires. He only has 289 career carries, which is not a lot. That's for some guys, that's one season or even more than that. And so he can be a prep in the passing game, and because he averages almost 18 yards a catch this year. And there's things he still needs to work on, his pass blocking and stuff like that. But he's pretty explosive. He's pretty quick. He's got upside. He could be a guy the Packers target the draft. Another one would be Cody Schrader from Missouri. He was actually a transfer from a school I'd never heard of until recently. Until he transferred over, was Truman State. So yeah, he kind of came out of nowhere a little bit last year in 2022, and showed some flashes and stuff of he could be a guy. He kind of started, but he didn't have a super lot of carries, but he showed flashes. Like I said, he had like 700 yards last year, something like that. But he really blew up, of course, this year with well over 1,000 yards. He is a little bit older, of course, because he's a 6-year guy, like I said, and he has a lot of experience because, like I said, he's a 6-year guy. So he's had a little bit of wear and tear. He's not too bad, but he still has some wear and tear. He's also has experience playing in zone blocking schemes, so that's always a positive since that's the Packers run. He's kind of a no-nonsense runner, I would say. He just kind of runs in there. He kind of not that he's a power runner, but he's kind of is. He's not. He's got some decent foot quickness, but he's not super quick. He's not like, juking guys out of their shorts and doing spins and some crazy stuff like that. But he's got quick feet, be able to adjust and behind the line of scrimmage and find open holes and stuff like that. And he can catch the ball a little bit. He's not like, again, another big time, receiver guy who's going to be running down the field, running post routes or anything like that. But, he can catch the ball in the backfield. And okay, so another one would be Rasheen Ali from Marshall. He is a pretty dynamic type guy, athletic, quick, fast. He tore his ACL towards the end of 2021, so he missed most of 2022. But he kind of came back and had a good year this year. in 2023. He was still a little. It seemed like he was still a little hampered by the knee. He was still wasn't 100%. He was still kind of working his way back. But one of the things that stands out with him is he has actually 39 career rushing touchdowns, and basically really only 2 years of production or playing really, because he really didn't play much in 2022, like I said. And then 2020, he was like the third back or something like that. He hardly had any carries. He had, I think, 5 to 10 carries, something like that. But it was barely anything. So really, he only got 39. He basically got 30, rounded off 38 touchdowns in 2023 and 2021 combined. So he's got a nose in the end zone for sure. He's got good size, about 5'11", 205, and he usually tends to fall forward when tackled, even though he's not that giant guy. He's got decent size, but he tends to fall forward. And then he has good patience, and he's got about, I would say, average speed and explosiveness, but he's got good vision. He can find the holes and stuff like that, like I said. So he's in the potential Packer. Another one would be Ray Davis from Kentucky. He is actually, interesting enough, he's a double transfer. He's got good explosiveness and speed, and then but he does, like I said, he's another guy who has a bit of wear and tear on his body. He's a 5th-year senior. He has 2,000-yard seasons. Plus he's played a bunch, those other years, so he has a bit of wear and tear on him. So it could be something to keep an eye on. But he does have quick feet. He can get outside, and he has good he actually pretty good contact balance. He wasn't using the passing game a lot, but when he was, he actually showed really good natural hands. He looked like a basic wide receiver out there with his hands. He ran some deep routes and stuff like that. His blocking does need work, of course, like most college backs. But he's another guy I think would fit well with the Packers because of his skills, his speed, agility, ability to catch the ball and stuff like that. And also another one would be Jalen Wright from Tennessee. What I got down for him is speed, 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 because that is the name of his game. That is his calling card. It does take him a couple steps to get going, but once he gets going, he's lightning a ball, they call. He's really quick. He can juke defenders and stuff like that. He does run a little high, so it could lead to him taking some big hits in the NFL. We'll see if he can improve that, but he does run a little high, like I said. But for not being a huge guy and being known as like a quote unquote speed guy, he has pretty good contact balance and power for a guy of his size and a guy who runs kind of high. But his upper body's a little stiff, so it might be something that might wear the Packers because his ability to contribute in the passing game might be maybe not limited, but not super high. But we'll see with that. But I think there's potential there, and he has actually pretty fresh legs because he only really started 1 year at Tennessee. He shared the position with last year with another guy, but this year he was basically the starter. So he only has, and again, another concern, like I said, with the passing game is he only has 30 career catches, and 22 of those were just this past year. So that's gonna be something to keep an eye on with regards to the Packers. And so, although I don't think they're gonna take a wide receiver early, we'll see, of course. But let's go into the receivers. So there's some decent amount of receivers who I think could fit with the Packers and would be a potential player that'd be worth taking if they're going to take one. There's no point in taking somebody who's going to be like the number 5 receiver. It doesn't make sense. They're not going to, unless it's like a late day 3 type guy who's just like they're throwing a dart to the board, best player available type situation. So any guy who, I took guys who obviously fit their thresholds and guys who also could be at least in the top 4, I think, if they got drafted. So the first one would be some people's favorite receiver, Xavier Legette from South Carolina. I kind of like him somewhat, although not the same player, but somewhat similar to DK Metcalf because he's big, huge dude, 6'2", maybe listed at 6'3", but I think I've heard he's like closer to 6'2". But he's like legit 230-ish, and he's a ball. He's all muscles. He's not like some chubby dude. He's all muscles, and he's really athletic. He's a freak athlete, and he's expected from everything I've heard and seen and read, and he's going to jump really high. So he's because the explosive you see him on the field, he looks really explosive. He can really get up and jump high for the ball and get those high balls and stuff like that. But don't want to concern some people and myself have with Legette is he only has really 1 year of production, and that's as a 5th-year senior. Sometimes those guys, they just don't work out in the NFL. They just have kind of like a flash in the pan type, final year, and they're basically at their full capacities, I guess you'd call it, like their full powers. And so they are what they are. They're not going to really, there's no more growth potential for them, I guess would be another way to put it. So because before the season, he only had 423 receiving yards in basically 4 years. You break it down, that's about like I said, obviously it's about 100 yards, a little over 100 yards each year. This year he had like I believe 1,300 yards or 1,200 yards, something like that. So it's something to be concerned about. That it could potentially be a potential bust type situation, I guess you could say. But he does have good long arms. He has good hands. I mean, he still could be technically considered a developing player, like I said, because he had the big year this year, and he didn't do much those last previous years. Maybe it could just be he's a late bloomer. Sometimes that does happen. So there's potential for that. So he's still, I mean, he still potentially has some upside. And but the one other thing that's small concern of is he's been kind of 50 average on 50-50 balls. I think a guy as big as he is would jump like him would be better on 50-50 balls, but something he needs to work on. And he is not really a very good blocker. And but he doesn't always get full effort. That's another thing I saw on film. Other people have to disagree with me, but that's fine. But that's what some I've seen on film. But he's still a guy who could potentially get into Green Bay. Another guy would be Devontae Walker from UNC, North Carolina. He's an explosive down the field threat. He's got really easy speed. A couple people that I know that on Twitter, like Jake Shavink, my buddy Jake Shavink, he actually compared him, not exactly, but he said he is similar to Christian Watson in the sense he's this big, kind of big, strong, fast guy, but his route running is kind of underdeveloped. His route releases are kind of underdeveloped. Those need to be worked on. And he just played and he doesn't have a real lot of experience, actually, interestingly enough. He played just 8 games this year because of an NCAA waiver issue where he couldn't get wavered into playing this year until later in the season and all that. And then last season at Kent State, that was his first year as a starter. And then, of course, the year before that, he barely played. So really, he only has 2-ish years of starting, year and a half, whatever you want to call it. So, and then he's had some drops, nothing too bad, nothing too crazy, but it's still something to be concerned about, to keep an eye on, the Combine and Senior Bowl to see if it's something that he's working on, if he can fix it, or if it just is who he is. Because some guys, it just is who they are. But he, like I said, he's still somewhat raw, and he's got a lot of run after the catch potential because of agility, quickness, and speed. Okay, so another guy, one of my favorite guys is Javon Baker from UCF, with Central Florida. He's got size, speed. He can get yak. He's like 6'1", 208, but like he moves. Sometimes with the ball in his hand, at least. Sometimes like he's like a 5'11", 180-pound guy. So he's got moves. He's quickness. He can juke dudes out. He can outrun guys. He can cut off angles and stuff like that. And like I said, he's another guy that's a deep threat. And he has like a good instincts actually too to get yak. You'll see him making moves. Like you'll see a situation where as he's catching the ball, he's already starting to make his move type of stuff. And so he actually is originally an Alabama player who was there for 2 years and then transferred to UCF in 2022. He had a little bit of a small breakout that year, and then of course had his big breakout this year. The reason he's not really talked about as much, I think, is because he plays that offense at UCF where they run the ball a lot. Especially last year, they ran the ball a lot because they had like 3 backs that rotated who were all pretty decent. And but due to a couple of them graduating, they ran the ball a little bit less this year, and they threw a little bit more. So that's why he had kind of well over 1,000 yards this year, I think, because some of those guys graduated to the NFL. But of course, also his quarterback is kind of a running quarterback too. He's using the running game a lot too, so that kind of, again, like I said, affected his numbers. And then he has some drops as well. I counted he has had about 14 drops in the last 2 years, so that could be something to monitor in the Senior Bowl and Combine, of course, as well. But he does really good at high pointing the ball, and he's a willing blocker. So moving on to the tight ends, the tight end class this year is not good. It's not good at all. It's not. We're lucky the Packers grabbed 2 this past year. So a couple of tight ends to keep an eye on. Ben Sinnott from Kansas State. He can be an H-back type of guy. He's about 6'4", 245. Good blocker. He's really improved this past year as a receiver. but it's not really going to be his quote unquote calling card. But he can do it. It's not like he's a black hole or anything like that. But he can catch the ball. He'll get you your yards. He'll run. He's got good hands. Not an elite athlete, but he's a decent athlete, and he's just all around player basically. But he can, like I said, he can play the H back role, or he can play lineup as a tight end. And another guy would be Jared Wiley from TCU. He's kind of similar to Ben Sinnott, but he's like a bigger guy. He's like 6'6", 255. And again, another guy with really good hands, good blocker, an average to slightly above average athlete. And he's got potential, though. He's shown potential. He can be really good in the red zone because of his size and being able to outmuscle DBs and stuff like that for the ball. Like I said, average speed, average athlete, though. Another one would be Brevin Spanford, that a lot of fans know about coming this year to an extent. He's been kind of talked about as like a Mercedes Lewis 2.0 because of his size and his blocking ability. He's 6'7", 260-ish. But he's similar. He's somewhat similar to Mercedes Lewis. I wouldn't say prime Mercedes Lewis. He's not that athletic as prime Mercedes Lewis was, but like maybe 32 Mercedes Lewis. He's somewhat similar to. He's like, again, he's a big dude. He's a good blocker. He's got good hands, but he's not really going to be really much of a yak threat. But like I said, he's a big dude who can block. So that's something to keep in mind because the Packers don't really have technically just a pure blocking tight end right now. So two more guys, actually, Theo Johnson from Penn State and AJ Barner from Michigan. They're both somewhat similar. Again, kind of big dudes who can block and catch, red zone threats. Not elite athletes, but decent athletes. They're definitely, they can play between the 20s. They can play in the red zone. They're just kind of all around tight ends, I would say. So type guys that would be like the number 3s type in Green Bay at least. So to move on to the offensive line, we got a pretty good amount of guys that all fit the Packers really, because the Packers need depth, and of course they could take a tackle if they think Rasheed Walker is not the future left tackle, and of course they need depth in the interior line. So one of the guys they could take would be Jordan Morgan from Arizona. He's a 3-year starter in some teams, and I think his future is at guard. It's possible. We'll see. He's going to get work there, I believe, at the Senior Bowl, some guard snaps here and there. But I think he's mostly going there to play tackle. But he'll play a little bit guard here and there. Solid, good all-around blocker, good athlete. The only thing that's always concerned me with him is he's always been kind of a little inconsistent in his play. He'll have a really good game or a couple of really good games, and then he'll have a kind of a bad game or not great game where he gives us some pressures and stuff like that. But he's still got, like I said, athleticism and upside. So we'll see with him. Another one of my favorite tackles in this class, Patrick Paul from Houston. He's a big dude, 6'7", confirmed, 308. Started for 3 years at Houston, and each year, like, he showed progression. Each year he got better. So that's always a good thing, like, to see from your offensive lineman. He's not an elite athlete, but I feel like he should test out well enough to at least be within Green Bay's athletic thresholds for offensive linemen. He does need to work on his bend and not bending at the waist, and playing lower, not bending his knees more, basically. But he does show good core strength and some other stuff like that. He's got good strong hands, so he could definitely play left tackle. Another one would be Tyler Guyton from Oklahoma. He started just 1 full year at Oklahoma. He did start about 5 games last year, but as far as full seasons, this year was his first year as a starter. So he doesn't have a super lot of experience, but he's played both left and right. But he's played majority a right tackle. He's played like just 74 snaps over his career at left tackle, and a good chunk of those were at TCU, his first stop. So so it's gonna be something interesting to see with the Senior Bowl if he can show he can play left tackle. Because if he can't, then he might not be on the Green Bay's board, just because they generally don't like to take the guys that are just a right tackle period only, and that's it. Especially if he's going to be like a backup or what have you. They like their guys to be able to be versatile, at least play left and right side. So that's going to be something to keep an eye on. at the Senior Bowl. So another one of my favorite guys is Delmar Glaze from Maryland. He has left tackle and right tackle experience. The interesting thing about that is he has almost exact same amount of career snaps on both left and right side. He started last year right, but he played some left. And then this year he started just at left, but I think he had a few years previously played some right tackle. So, but he has a decent amount of experience. He's a 2-year starter. He was 6'4", 322 in the spring. So a little bigger. But he did play lighter last season. I'm not sure. I don't remember his exact weight, but I remember he was listed around 310 to 308 and that 312 and that kind of the range. And he looks a little bit slower this year. So I think that extra weight kind of slowed him down a little bit. So that's gonna be something interesting to see at the combine and Senior Bowl if he drops a few pounds. I think that would help him a lot more because he looked really mobile. He's a pretty consistent guy. He's an okay run blocker, but nothing, not top level, but he's decent enough. And I would say he plays to the whistle, not through the whistle, if that kind of makes sense. And but like I said, last year when he was a little bit lighter, he was a lot. You could see he was really smooth mover. This year, a tiny bit more clunky, I guess you could say in a way. I think his added weight did that. I think if he drops some of that weight back down, you'll see the smoothness come back to his movements, and you'll see him really just lock down to left tackle. Another one of my guys I kind of like, Javon Foster from Maryland or Missouri, sorry. Another big guy, 6'5", 309 with, he's got 34-inch arms. So he got long arms and, he's a 3-year starter, like I said, and he's also played some right tackle. Similar to Patrick Paul, not an elite athlete, but I think he's going to test out good enough to meet Green Bay's thresholds. Another one to keep an eye on. Like I said, it's a long list. Another one to keep an eye on with Ladarius Henderson from Michigan. He originally was at Arizona State. He's about 6'4", 310, and actually has 35-inch arms. So he's got really long arms. He's got experience, a lot of experience at Arizona State and Michigan, like I said. And he's versatile. He's played everywhere but center, and he's got a decent amount of spots everywhere, basically. The spots he's played the most, though, would be left guard and left tackle. But I feel like off his film, it feels like he's more comfortable at guard. It feels more like that's his position. Like he can play tackle in a pinch or for an injury, but guard. And so moving on from him, Dominic Pooney from Kansas, another versatile guy, about 6'4", 317 in the spring. He played left guard in last year, and then this year he played left tackle. Just from his film and his physical abilities, he's a guard. He's a guard. I think you can kick him out to play tackle if you need him to, if you have an injury or what have you. But long term, he's a guard, and he's a guy who can play. He's a solid blocker. Another one, some Packers fans will like this, some won't. But Tanner Bortolini from Wisconsin. Now he has a lot of experience or versatility, I should say, because he's played every spot except for left tackle. He's played left guard, center, right guard, right tackle, and he's had starts at all those positions, I believe. So he's another guy to keep an eye on that because the Packers like those guys that are really versatile. But his long-term future will be on the inside, either at guard or center. But he's another one to keep an eye on for the Packers. In regards to those Wisconsin guys, though, the front office has been known to kind of try and shy away from those Wisconsin players because of there's a lot of pressure on those guys as far as going to Wisconsin and playing in Green Bay. But they've shown they will take guys like this. Took Coleman a few years ago. Okay, so the next few more. These are all kind of interior type guys. Next one would be Christian Haynes from Connecticut. He's about 6'2" and 7/8, so basically 6'3", 312, and he's got kind of a squatty build, kind of a short kind of squatty build almost. But you look at his body like that and you think, oh, he's going to be this big, slow, fat guy. And he's not. He's actually pretty athletic, really athletic. He's got good arm length. And he's like, but he is a mauler. He plays out there. He plays hard. He mauls dudes. But, I feel like he should be able to play in any scheme. He should be able to even play in Green Bay's zone scheme. I think he's athletic to do it. Athletic enough to do it, sorry. And then some of the centers, we got Zach Frazier from West Virginia. He's played in zone most of his career, and he has a lot of experience. He's a solid, good all around blocker. The only question with him is just because he's old and has so much experience, does he have any more upside? And then will he be athletic enough for Green Bay to meet their thresholds? People have talked about that. Yes, he plays in zone, so that means he could automatically play in zone in the NFL. Well, not necessarily, because again, he's going against mostly college players. Especially, we all know how the Packers are with their athleticism thresholds for the offensive line. They like the guys to be really athletic. So he may not make the board. We'll see how he does with his athletic testing. But early on, I think at least right now, I think there's potential that he could make it. So that's why I still have him there, because we don't know yet until he works out. So, of course, another one that a lot of people like is Jackson Powers Johnson from Oregon. So he's a dude who's a big, very well-known athletic guy. So he'll pass Green Bay's athletic thresholds. And he's a mauler in the run game for sure. And he's played even in guard. So, of course, that's something that Green Bay values, is guys that can play more than just one position. So that's definitely a good reason for him potentially being Green Bay's board. The only question will be, can he play in an outside zone like Green Bay runs? But that, of course, like I said, that's what the Senior Bowl is for, to see him moving around, doing that stuff, the blocking drills and all that stuff, to see if they think he can do it. Okay, so another one would be Kingsley Suamatia from BYU. He's a very big dude, 6'5", 6'6". And I've seen ranges of his weights. I haven't seen a confirmed weight. I've seen some places list him at like 320, some 335. So that's going to be interesting to see when he weighs in the Senior Bowl, see where his weight's at. Because, of course, the Packers do have their thresholds for weights for the offensive linemen. They don't draft guys really over 320. So if he comes to the combine at 330, or not even just the combine, just the Senior Bowl, 330, 335, then you say it's probably off the board. But the interesting thing is that Jim Nagy and the Senior Bowl guys, they have him listed as guard. They did say that they're going to have him play both tackle and guard, but it's just interesting they have him listed as guard. It makes you wonder if maybe a lot of NFL teams see him as a guard. So, but yeah, we'll see with that. But like I said, he's a large man and he's strong. He's a mauler. So sometimes those smaller guys, they fit better at guard. So we'll see with that. Okay, another one would be Brandon Coleman, a guard from TCU. He's played 4 positions. Again, left tackle, right tackle, left guard, right guard. But he's played a lot of he played tackle this year and he played guard last year, I believe, if I'm right. He played some guard this year too. But the only question with him will be, will he meet Green Bay's athletic thresholds? I'm not sure, 100% sure on him. That's why I included him in here. He may or may not. We'll see. Yeah, so we'll see. That's why there's certain guys that are not on this list, because I know that I'm like, oh yeah, he's not athletic enough for Green Bay. But him, I think he should. If he does, I think he'll be there. He'll barely be there if he is. And so finally, Troy Fontanatu from Washington. He's been their left tackle for, I believe 3 years. But at his size and arm length and stuff, Green Bay would view him as a guard. And if he's a physical player, like I said, he's like 6'3", like 32-inch arms, maybe 33. But he's a good athlete and moves his feet really well. But just looking at his game, how he plays, and his size and his frame and all that stuff, I'm pretty sure Green Bay would view him as a guard. But they would. I think he should meet their thresholds. Okay, that's about all I have for you guys. It's like the longest episode I've ever created. Only my 3rd episode, of course, but still the longest one, almost a half hour long. So hope you guys enjoyed learning about these players who the Packers could be interested in. This was just the offensive players. For my next one, obviously, I would do the defensive players. I will have that out. This will be out Monday, and I will have the defensive out players probably end of the week, Thursday or Friday, something like that. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.